All right, everyone. This is such a great video from a medical doctor, Dr. Willie, and someone who has really made a name for himself as a influencer. And I know people who know him personally, so it's very exciting to have Lane on this call as well. So I hope you listen to this, take notes, and at the towards the end, there is some great information for you to really think about when it comes to peptides and where the future of them are going. So, without further ado, here we go.
What did you start taking first? Well, I've been around peptides for a very, very long time. We've been using them, clinically for over 10 years. I was using them before that when it was, they were just starting out, and they're peptides that we used back then that aren't even around anymore. Some of them are making a resurgence, but peptides at that time were they call them experimental. They truly are. They were really, really experimental back then. And we just the science was very, very clear even back then. There is actually a very long history with peptides. I think peptides. A lot of people think that they're really, really new. It's just that they're new to a lot of people. And so a lot of the research on many of these peptides has been done all the way back to even like GHKCU, their studies back to 1973 on those. So there's a lot of emerging, research on a lot of these, but a lot of peptides that are just now becoming mainstream have been used in Russia and Eastern Europe and a lot of other places for many, many years, and in many places as a standard. So just because we have them new here doesn't mean that they're new. Now, from a clinical standpoint, in the U.S. we have something, that called the FDA, and so that can be, it's there for our safety, but a lot of times, people will use FDA approved as like this kind of gold standard, which we have to clinically, but that doesn't mean that it is good and safe. There are a lot of FDA approved medications that we prescribe on a daily basis that are not that good for you. And a lot of them, so take something as simple as like omeprazole, right? Like pantoprazole, any of the PPIs. I remember when those came out years ago, and the reps would tell us, hey, these are very powerful drugs. You don't want to have patients on them, longer than 4 weeks. And on the insert, it still talks about only being on them 4 weeks. Now people have been taking them for years, and they just don't stop, and they cause a lot of other issues. So that's a simple example, right? The peptides, been using them clinically over 10 years, so I've seen the trends come and go. And I'll kind of chuckle when somebody comes in, is like, have you heard of? And it's like, yeah, we tried that 10 years ago, it didn't work. But the cool thing about it is that there's so much more information, so much more real world outcomes that we've seen. They've actually improved, because peptides are around for a very long time, but for instance, like the GLP-1s, I was using, liraglutide before, semaglutide came out, and that was one of the first GLPs, and didn't work that well. Worked when it worked, and when it didn't. And so the next step, we saw the progression, and it turned into a GLP-1 like semaglutide, and then that still has, it works very well, but it also has its issues with some people with dose-dependent nausea and things like that. And then we've seen the improvement. Tirzepatide is another improvement on that, and then hopefully we'll see in this year. We were hoping to have it last year, but retatrutide will be out. I get a lot of questions on that, but yes, it's not prescribable and FDA approved. A lot of people are still using it from the gray sites, and those have been getting cut down left and right. And I don't know if you saw one of the biggest players got cut down Friday, which is Peptide Sciences, but that was a mainstream one that everybody knew, and they voluntarily decided to close their doors on Friday. So I've been using it for a very long time. I got certified, in peptide therapy back in 2017. through IPS, through the International Peptide Society and A4M. So been using them there is a certification program for practitioners. And it's just more about education and how to use them properly. So I've been using them for a long time, seen them personally work on myself so that, I like to test anything on myself before I like to use it or even recommend it, to a patient, and for many, many reasons. But peptides are, they're safe. There's very few, if any, contraindications. We don't have to do as much of a patient selection population as we have to do with some other medications and hormones and other things. But I use them as adjunct therapy, and that's really important. In the younger population, they can have their uses, right? But say in your 40, 50-year-olds that don't have their hormones balanced, and if they're going through menopause or andropause, they're going to be a force multiplier. So it's not going to be instead of, but it's a both and. Right. So I want to make it real clear to people that it's very important to not think, hey, I'm going to take this one peptide and I'm going to be this solid. It will help if you have everything, the foundation of the house in order, and that's are your hormones in optimal levels, and even before that, what is your diet like? I have patients coming in all the time going, hey, I heard about this peptide on TikTok. Tell me about it. And I'm like, yeah, I said, sir, you're pre-diabetic. So, let's talk about that. Let's talk about your diet, your nutrition, your activity level, your sleep. Let's talk about your, emotional health, your spiritual health. And then we'll get to, your peptides and what would be best. So I generally add in peptides after I've set the foundation of the house. So a lot of them are coming in to see me for hormonal issues, and so once we get that, I just use them as a next level force multiplier, because then you get them feeling better, because they come in feeling horrible. You get them feeling better, and then now they go, okay, what's next? What can I do for my brain fog, or what can I do for? And that will kind of dictate what way we're going to go and what we recommend as far as peptides to add to their therapy. If you, and I know a lot of people that do, if as an office, they come in and you just pile on a ton of therapies on them, it's very overwhelming. They're already
another issue besides being overwhelmed, which is that you can't isolate what's helping.
Yes, and that's a perfect. That was the next thing I was going to say is the other reason I don't stack them on there all at once is because then they start to feel better. Well, what made them feel better? Exactly. Was it the hormones? Was it the peptides? Was it the, so you have to do it in a stair step fashion, and more of a like I do it as especially fatigue. It's a process of elimination. Because people come in and I have fatigue. Well, great. There's 50 different things that, different things that cause fatigue.
Yeah.
So we got to get.
That's what we always like to say at LEMD, that this is a piece of the puzzle. And so we try to educate people on diet and protein and exercise and drink enough water and make sure your hormones are good, all of that. Absolutely. Yep. So Lane, we wanted to ask you the same question, but before I ask it, I want to see if I can hold this up to the screen. I don't know. Is that showing?
What is it?
Can you see it? That is Lane, 1 year. Exactly. Quite the transformation. So, Lane, I know that people looked at that picture, that before and after picture of yours that I posted on Facebook, and they want to know, what did you do?
So, well, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a guy, a case study, as it were. But I basically, a year ago, I turned 40. I was overweight, about 60 pounds overweight. I was tired. I had a ton of exhaustion and mental fog, and just thought, is this it? I mean, is this kind of the way life is just going to be lived for the next, 4 decades, and then it's over? And I just wasn't willing to accept that. So I went to a provider here locally. I live in Florida. And I got on testosterone just because my testosterone level was low. It was 345. I was able to raise it to 405 naturally over about a 2-year period, and just decided that 405 was it wasn't feeling good. So, we got my testosterone normalized, and that helped a lot. But what it did, I had more strength in the gym, felt better, all that, but it made me hungrier. And so my weight problem got even worse because I just had this insatiable appetite. And I've always struggled with food. I've always had a lot of like high hunger signals and food noise that people talk about. I've experienced all that. Yo-yo dieted a lot throughout my adult life. Lose 20 pounds, put it back on. Lose 30 pounds, put it back on. Lose, and I did every single thing that I know to do. I did Whole30 several times. Keto, paleo, intermittent fasting, macro tracking, calorie tracking, saying mean things to myself in the mirror so I'll get it this time. And then doing that, white knuckling it, making it work for 3 months, 90 days, 120 days, 6 months, until I just couldn't take it. And then I would have just a 3 months of putting all that weight back on, uncontrollable. Like just could not keep myself from overeating, feel ashamed, repeat the cycle. And I did this every couple of years for 20 years, which is why when people go straight to you're taking the easy way out because you're using a GLP-1, I say, if this were my first option, maybe you could say, well, if I just happened upon some weight gain and I said, oh, let's take drugs. But that's not the case. I spent the last 20 years fighting this battle that I look at other people, they don't seem to have the same battle. And I never quite understood that. And I work out, I train, I walk, but nothing ever works. So I get on testosterone and things get even more difficult. And my weight gain starts to get more pronounced. And I got to the biggest I've ever been in my life. At one point, I saw 240 on the scale, and I'm 5'11". So to put that in perspective, 240 on a 5'11" frame, I had a lot of adipose tissue. I was very overweight. So a friend of mine told me about tirzepatide, and honestly, Dr. Willie said he's known about peptides for all these years, decades. I didn't even know what they were. I knew we had a bottle that said collagen peptides on it that we got from Costco like 5 years ago, but we never drank it. But other than that, I didn't know what a peptide was. I just had a friend tell me about tirzepatide. And that sent me down this path of, oh yeah, I know what Ozempic is, but this isn't that. And like Dr. Willie said, tirzepatide is a vast improvement on semaglutide. And so I went back to that same physician and I said, because I didn't know about LEMD at the time, I just had a provider who was, supplying me. And I went to her and I said, hey, I feel great. I'm just fat. I'm fatter than I've ever been. I don't know how to quit. I don't know how to stop. And so she said, well, let's start you out on 2.5 of tirzepatide. And that, the combination of getting my hormones in balance, which is why I'm so glad Dr. Willie mentioned how important hormonal balance is, because I know for me, if I had not dealt with testosterone and just went straight to tirzepatide, I don't think it would have had the same effect. But because I was strong in the gym, and I decided that during this process, what I wasn't going to do is I wasn't going to just take a shot and chill out and see what happens. Like I was going to try my hardest to make every effort to bring my entire self to the table to get results. And so the first injection was May 9th of 2025. And I weighed 237.4 pounds that day. I did a scan at the gym. And this morning I was 180.0. So whatever that is, 57 pounds. I feel great. I don't need to lose any more weight. At this point, I'm just, trying to maintain what I've got. And of course, put on muscle. And in terms of other peptides, I know that was part of the question. What was your first? What have you taken since? I did the exact thing Dr. Willie said, and that is, and you mentioned this as well. I tried not to stack anything on top of TRT and tirzepatide because I wanted to see what results am I getting just from this. And now I'm interested in BPC 157, TB 500, that combination. I'm interested in MOTC. I know LEMD. I saw the other day they just released that. I was thinking I want MOTC. I checked the website. It wasn't there. The next day I get an email. We have MOTC. I think they can read my mind. I don't know. Maybe
in a specific instance, it had to do with the federal government making a list of, 12 or 14 peptides?
19.
19, thank you, available. And I do want to ask you both, Dr. Willie, let's start with you, about MOTS-C. So I'm kind of like where Lane is, meaning I don't need to lose more weight, but I'm microdosing tirzepatide because I like the anti-inflammatory benefits, just the overall anti-aging, etc. But MOTS-C has anti-inflammatory benefits, as I understand it. So I'm questioning: should I do both? Should I switch? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, they have an anti-inflammatory effect from the glucose control. Okay, because they're gonna increase insulin sensitivity further, slightly glucose utilization enhancement, a little bit more fat metabolism. It actually activates something called the AMPK pathway, which is something that fasting also amplifies. The AMPK pathway it's really stimulated when we fast, when we do an extended fast, not like intermittent fasting. I'm talking about like a 3-day, 60-hour fast or a 5-day fast. But basically, it's the way you can always the way I explain to patients is MOTS-C is an exercise mimetic. Okay, that's one of the easiest ways to think about it, and it activates pathways that are generally similar to pathways that are triggered by physical activity. So that's improvement muscle metabolism, enhanced endurance signaling, increased mitochondrial efficiency. So, I mean, it also can help the cells adapt to stress. We always hear about ROS, or reactive oxidative species. It's a signaling molecule, just like so remember that all peptides are signaling molecules. Okay. And mitochondria, it'll actually improve mitochondrial communication within the nucleus. So, which tends to drop as we get older. I mean, everything drops after 40, after 50. And it's not that we got to just stoically accept our swift decline and go, well, this is 40, this is 50. No, we have so much technology at our fingertips now to age better, right? It's not so much anti-aging. You're never going to stop aging. It's more, I explain it as anti-decline. It's like, how well do you want to age, right? You're never going to stop aging, but how can we maintain muscle mass? How can we, and that's the other thing. So like with a lot of these, peptides, you hear so much noise about, oh, GLP-1s are terrible. And Lane nailed it when he said, yeah, I mean, you hear about all these people that, there's this negative, you only hear the negatives. So I wrote a paper, literally, that I had patients that called it, that are going to be on a GLP. That's called The Truth About GLPs, where I address each and every claim, because, you'll hear the noise on the internet, on social media, but a lot of it is actually false, and there's more to a story, right? So, like, for instance, the loss of muscle mass. That's not from, like, there's nothing in a GLP-1, GLP-GIP that targets muscle loss. Okay, they go to a doctor, say, I want to lose weight. They hand them something, weight loss, and they don't. There's no counseling. They don't tell them, oh, by the way, you're not going to be hungry. Oh, by the way, you need to prioritize protein and you need to strength train. Well, by the way, so they don't. There's none of that conversation. So I literally hand them a page that talks about key strategies to maintain muscle mass. And one of, honestly, the standards of care now with GLPs is adding in things like sermorelin or tesamorelin or a GH peptide to maintain bone density and muscle mass. That is starting to be more of a standard of care. BioT, which is, the pellet, like, hormone therapy pellet, company, like, they have a really detailed algorithm that talks about, oh, this patient's on, overweight, obese, or has a high BMI, or which I kind of take BMI with a grain of salt. I look more at body composition. BMI, can be deceiving. I'm a 30 BMI, and I'm not obese. No. But it doesn't take into account any kind of muscle mass, so it's just height and weight. But in their standard of care, yeah.
A couple people are asking on here if you would be willing to share that paper. If you share it with me, I can post it on the Shots of Great Facebook page.
Yeah, perfect.
That would be so awesome.
Yeah, it just gives people ammo for all their family members. They're like, right. Oh, it's so bad. It's going to be, long term. We don't know the long term. Like, yeah, we know the long term of obesity and diabetes. Look those up,
sure do.
right?
So,
sure do. So,
Me yesterday, oh no, I'm kind of hesitant to take it because I know there's side effects. I said, well, there's no side effects so great as being overweight.
yeah.
That has a lot of side effects.
So I want to touch back on the Mott C for a second. Like current exception, we've ordered it. It hasn't arrived yet. But so for people who, whether they're wanting to lose weight or whether they're at their goal weight, but they want to be more muscular, is this something that would achieve that without going to the Morlins, the tesamorelin, isomorelin?
No, not really. In all reality, for muscle mass, it's going to be the growth hormone peptides. MOXB is going to be, think of it more like improving aging biology. Like that's going to be more of your, when you hear about longevity, wellness, longevity pathways, cellular stress resistance. The majority of like the research right now is happening in like enhancing exercise performance, through MOXB with elderly. Say somebody that's compromised, they don't move well, they don't have good mobility or joint integrity. Like that's one of the best ways. But in a longevity and kind of integrative like medicine setting, that's what it's going to be used for. It's just going to help to enhance a little bit more of their metabolic optimization, their fat loss support. But as far as like muscle, like performance recovery, but not so much muscle build. That's going to be more protein signaling, and that's going to be more, tesamorelin, ipamorelin, or spermorelin. That's going to be the pathways for growth. There's a lot of other peptides that I'm hoping I'm going to meet with Kevin this week to see about how we can bring those on. But there are some specific peptides that are really, really great for building muscle specifically. That are coming down, but they're a little bit newer. So we have to kind of see. But there's 300,000 peptides that naturally occur in our body, and we're still learning about.
That's a good number to know. I'm going to remember that one. Yeah. Lane, let's go back to you for a second because you're super ripped, and again the contrast with 12 months is amazing. Because you're an influencer, you talk to a lot of people. I'm just curious, the weight loss peptides, tirzepatide, et cetera, they get, I'm guessing, 80+% of the conversation and the orders and things like that. But in your own life and in the people that you talk to through Ellie and as an influencer, kind of where does the interest go after the weight loss? Because a lot of us, like Janelle lost 40 pounds in less than a year, and she's done. So where do things go then? What's your focus now?
Well, I think when you, at least in my situation, when you lose weight, it goes from being the one problem you have to an eliminated problem, and all the other ones kind of rise to the top, right? Because when I was overweight, I didn't think about anything else. It was just like, I want my clothes to fit better. I want to feel better in my own skin. I don't want to have these markers on my lab that are all connected to this one problem. Well, that gets solved, and now I'm thinking, I want to be able to focus more clearly when I work. I want more energy throughout the day, like sustained energy. I want strength in the gym because now that it's not that I'm not overweight. I want to see how far can I take this. I'm not going to become a bodybuilder, but what I'm saying is like, I want to maximize what I've got. It's fun. I enjoy it. So I think it's kind of going from managing a problem to maximizing life. And some of these peptides are just remarkable for making that happen. And that's now a possibility because of the GLP-1 GIP one that we all start with.
Right. Well, you know what, Lane? You put a video out because you are so good at this. It's what you do. But you put a video out on your transformation that I think is probably the best tirzepatide I've ever seen. So for those of you watching here, I will post that on our Shots of Joy page as well. I think it's like 10 minutes, and oh my gosh, that's what I'm sending to people now.
You're very kind. You're very kind. I appreciate it. I will say, can I say one thing about that video?
Yes.
I had no interest in going as far with this as I did. I put out that video to be the definitive final answer to anyone who asks me, how did you lose the weight and why did you use Ozempic? Which I didn't use Ozempic, but my point is like they hear GLP-1, they think Ozempic, they think Oprah or whatever celebrity, they think cheating, they think easy way out, and they think as soon as you stop, you're going to put all the weight back on. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, unlike every diet I've ever done, it's like, this is the way it works. You know, it's like Dr. Willie said, GLP-1s don't cause muscle loss. Rapid weight loss does when you don't have protein and you don't lift. You know, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to lose muscle if you do it that way. And in the same way, if you stop whatever you did to lose the weight, you're going to put the weight back on eventually. And so all of those questions, I thought, I just want to build something. I want to make something that I can share with people where not just answering the question for me, but speaking for the people who either are doing it in secret, because I did it in secret for a long time. I lost 30, 40, 50 pounds. And I would tell some people, if I thought I could help people, someone that I, you know, maybe I've talked to them before about weight, they're on a similar journey trying to lose weight. So was I. If I thought I could help them, I'd say, hey, I just need you to know this is how I'm doing it. But for most people, I would say everything I was doing, lifting, I'm, you know, I'm optimizing for protein. I'm really prioritizing that. I'm trying to get satiated with protein and fiber. And I'm walking, you know, I've got a walking pad here at my desk and a standing desk, and I go to the gym every day and I lift super heavy. And I would say all that, except the one thing that was actually the biggest difference was the GLP-1 GIP. Like, all of that is all stuff I've always done. But the GLP-1 made it possible to stick with it, to get through the kind of points of weakness and the points of strength. It's one thing to stay on a plan when you're motivated and you know you're feeling it, and maybe you're doing it with your spouse and you're both just crushing it. That's easy, and that lasts for 3 days, 4 days, 2 weeks. It doesn't. It's different. And when that drops, it used to be, it was so hard. It was just this force of will, just this constant, I have to do this, that could maybe last a week, maybe last 2 weeks, and then it's over. And then you fall off the wagon. And it's a frustrating for anybody who's ever had excess weight they've been trying to take off. And if that excess weight was connected to overeating, which was connected to high hunger signals, you know what I'm talking about. Like, we've all gone through this exact same thing. So to finally have something that made all of that elder effort more attainable, sustainable, and maximized, I couldn't keep that to myself. I had to at least make one piece of content about that. So I structured it like a documentary. I've got expert contributors in there, and I try to tell my story, but also speak for and hopefully encourage the people who are having all these feelings about it.
Right.
And I also wanted to answer the skeptics a little bit, like the people who say it's cheating. I like Jim Gaffigan. You know, he's on Monjuro. He said, people say that's cheating. He says, I'm not playing Major League Baseball. I'm just he goes, I'm just a fat guy trying to not die, right?
Well, you know, you mentioned being in the closet, and on the comments, a number of people have mentioned, you know, so am I. And I'm just hoping, as we wrap up the call, because our time is up, but I'm just hoping that we all can be evangelistic about this, because, hey, it was a Super Bowl ad, right? I mean, it was Serena on the Super Bowl ad. So Super Bowl is 85 million viewers. So this is truly transforming people's lives. We get the stories every single week, and it's not only helping them look better, it's helping them feel better, perform better. And I don't know why we wouldn't want to shout it from the housetops.
Right. Oh, that's absolutely true. Well, I think we have time for like 30 more seconds. So, Dr. Willie V. Real, we had one more question for you, if you could answer it real quickly. Somebody wants to know, since you are a doctor that can write prescriptions, how are you working, Ellie, into your practice?
So it's really helped extend my reach, right? Because it's like having another practitioner without. And it's being followed. So you're being followed by a practitioner. You're not going to a gray site. You're not going to something that's not a licensed pharmacy. I'm actually going out to visit the pharmacy this week with Kevin, and I've spoken at length with them at their policies and procedures, and just understand you're getting the top of the line peptides when you, and that's the thing is I've used peptides for over 10 years. And like I now use all of the LAMD peptides because I've tried many different pharmacies, and the quality and the efficacy is above what I've used in a lot of other pharmacies. And again, it's a licensed provider that you're being followed by, and it's a licensed pharmacy. So that's the biggest thing now. As far as me, yeah, I can write scripts and I give patients the option. But for the most part, it's just easier. I like the communication that LAMD has. I like that they stay in touch with them and, hey, your refill is about to be due. Do you want to? And that's just really hard in our practice because we have thousands of patients,
Right.
to stay up with every single patient when it's all like with LAMD, it's all automated. Now they will still ask me what my recommendation is because I have certain recommendations for certain like stacks. Like do they want a fat loss metabolic stack? I recommend this one. Do they want just a longevity anti-aging stack or an injury repair regenerative stack or cognitive brain optimization stack? They're going to be in different, they're going to be different recommendations. But I use them because of the quality and the efficacy, and it has allowed me to extend my reach, especially out of state. If I have a friend, a family member out of state, I can just send them the LAMD link, and I know that they're being followed by a licensed provider and getting peptides from a licensed pharmacy.
Got it.
It's so great. I mean, you're in the club because you've got so many people, but I know that some of your patients you've brought on as brand partners, and I know one of them is just she's going to town. So how wonderful that you're actually making an income from somebody while you're at work.
Well, that's the other thing is like everybody needs another. Today, you have to have multiple revenue streams. I don't care what business you're in.
Bingo.
You have to have multiple revenue streams.
Bingo.
And it is an easy way to implement and to help other people, not just with their health, but to help them financially with something that is, it's gonna blow up in the next few years as far as peptides. But it has to be quality. And it has to be from a licensed pharmacy provider. And that's what LAMD does.
Great. What a wonderful place to end. I wanted to ask you, what is the future of peptides? That was one of the questions, and you just answered it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just sum it up and saying it's going to blow up. So jump on board with a great company, with a great pharmacy and great doctors.
Dr.